Hello and welcome, Exiles. Today I'm going to teach you how to craft some really nice high-end wands for a lot cheaper than you can buy them on trade. For context, of course, if we're talking about a +4 level wand, something that you can search with a weighted sum like this and say, okay, I'm going to buy something with my price range. I set the budget of 70x. There's a 30x wand that's kind of insane. This is not the scenario where you craft. Where you craft is when you're talking about a +5 wand. Now, to start things off with, I'm going to use the example of lightning because it's a premium base. +5 cold, +5 fizz, those are less expensive, but the same principles will apply for crafting. So right now, out the gate, this is the first point where you can save currency on making your craft. A +5 magic base is 8 divines. That's pretty pricey. What is it if I change this to just any old base without any restrictions? Well, all of a sudden there are bases that have fractures on them or corruptions on them. These are not usable, but if you change it to say, I do not want a fracture, I do not want a corruption, now we can work with that. And there's some bases that are up for 3 divines. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about saving your base with a recombinator. The way this works is when you recombinate with a low weighted mod with a very high weight mod, low weight being hard to roll, high weight being a common mod, what ends up happening is the recombinator is very, very weighted towards giving you back the same exact base you had before with that mod. And what we're going to do is we went to Act 1, we gambled some wand bases just to get % spell damage T7. That's what we're looking for, % spell damage T7. And all these wands have it. And we are going to recombinate the % spell damage with the +5. What this does is it gives us a very high likelihood to succeed at about 50%. 50% maybe doesn't sound good because you're saying, okay, I bought the base for 3D and the other base was 8D. That's not saving me that much money. Well, it's a bit better than 50% because there's a recombinator called Omen of Recombination. Costs about 15 to 20 exalts, and it makes your recombination attempts lucky. So what we'll do is we'll click this recombinator. We'll insert our bad base here, our bone wand, and our good base here, our spellslinger wand. And I said if I click T7 spell damage and +5, it'll give me a 50% chance. The way recombinators work on just a very basic terminology is the rarer, 65D Sella. That's a wand I made. So you maybe could use this to make some profit and make some profit like that. Maybe not 65D because that wand was specifically a 2 socket base. That was a +5 wand I made, but maybe you'll make some pretty good bases. Anyways, T7 spell damage with +5 lightning or just any other very low weight mod. The top roll you can get, as far as I can tell, is 50%. That's the highest the recombinator will ever give you to succeed, but you can go beyond 50% with this lucky recom. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to essentially get rid of all these trash mods, because with these trash mods here, we can't craft the wand. But if we remove these mods, we can rebuild it from scratch. So I have 3 wand bases, and I'm going to showcase recomming these. Of 3, maybe 1 will die. Maybe 2 will die if we get really unlucky, but you'll see that the Spellslinger wand stayed alive. Cutting in right now because I'm figuring out what I did wrong, and that's I bought a wand that was sanctified. So you cannot recraft a sanctified base. It's similar to corrupted. You can't recom it. So I'm going to go get another base so that way we have 3 bases to showcase for the craft. All right, now we have a base that isn't sanctified, so we can do this correctly again. So 50% chance, +5 with T7 spell damage. We have the lucky recom, 75% success rate. There's always a chance you brick though, and this one survived. And then we'll go ahead and do the last one. Keep in mind what we're doing here is we are clearing off the extra bad affixes, and we're trying to ensure the outcome base is something we can work with to recraft from scratch. So all of these succeeded out of 3. We got a little bit lucky there. Out of every 4 wands, 1 will fail. But the point is you buy a base for 3 divines rather than 8 divines with a 75% success rate. Usually that should yield a much cheaper result to get to this point. Now, after this, we can craft pretty much from scratch all the way to completion with the resources I have prepared. So you'll notice on all these wands, we have +5 and we have spell damage. The key to all crafting in PoE 2 right now, I think for most of the crafts, is the homogeneous exalt, which basically says, hey, when you're using this and you're slamming on an exalt, it's going to forcibly add things that have the same tags you already have. So the tags we have currently on this are lightning, caster, elemental, gem, and we have caster damage tags. Now, the key thing here for any wand craft, in my opinion, is to finish the suffixes first for hit-based wands. If you're doing a chaos dot wand, this will be a little bit different. Maybe you care about trying to force cast speed first. Maybe you don't care about crit chance as much, stuff like that. But for most hit-based wands, crit chance, crit damage, and cast speed, those are your money suffixes outside of your gem levels. And the key thing here is, of the tags that exist on the suffixes, the only tags that are shared with the caster, lightning, elemental, gem, damage tag is caster, crit, caster speed, caster crit. It's these three right here. And these happen to be the money suffixes. Cast speed, crit chance for spells, crit damage for spells. These are your ideal suffixes to achieve. So on all three of these wand bases, if I tell the game I'm going to say, hey, I want a Dextral Exalt, I want to slam on something with Dextral or some suffixes, and I do Greater Exalt, which means I'm going to slam on 2 suffixes, and I click homogeneous, that ensures it has to be those caster tag suffixes. I am guaranteed when I slam on every single one of these, I'm going to hit a combination of cast speed, crit chance, and crit damage, all three of which are good suffixes. I think the best out of those is cast speed, and then second best is maybe crit chance and then crit damage afterwards, but any combination of those will give you good stats that you can use for your build or resell to other people. So let's showcase that real quick here. Crit chance, cast speed. Crit damage, cast speed. Crit chance, cast speed. As you can see, very consistent. You can do this with a perfect exalt. You can give yourself one better tier on average. For example, if I had a perfect exalt, I would not have been able to hit the T4 cast speed as an outcome. But that's up to you if you want to spend extra money. I figured for the sake of the example, I'm not going to use a perfect exalt because they're getting pretty expensive, and greater exalts really aren't too expensive in comparison. The most expensive thing on this craft right now is these homogenizing exalts. These are about 1.5D. Dextral exalts are cheap. Greater exalts are cheap. Greater Exalt Omen are cheap. That's all pretty reliable. And now for the prefixes. What do we do here? Spell damage of a low tier isn't particularly useful, but we can guaranteed safely remove this. And how do we do that? We use the Omen of Sinestral Crystallization. This, in my mind, is a very good utility tool for a safe annul on either prefixes or suffixes if you cannot afford the really expensive ones that are like the chaos can only target suffix or chaos can only target prefix. Those ones are like 5 divines, whereas these crystallization omens are like 20x to 40x. They're quite a bit cheaper. And what we use this with is Essence of the Abyss. Now, this maybe isn't clear that it is a perfect or corrupted essence, but it does count as that. So what this does is this ensures that when I click this to add Mark of the Abyssal, it will remove spell damage and nothing else. Remove only prefix mods. So you'll see here, spell damage gets removed, spell damage gets well, okay, another thing I will say is when you're using this is sometimes it attempts to remove another mod and then it'll say, oh, I can't do that. I can't remove +5. You just have to click it until it does remove the % spell damage. So you see item can't apply. You just have to re-click it until it does attempt to remove the correct thing. So now all 3 of these wands have cast speed +5 plus crit chance or crit damage, which is fantastic, and bears of the Mark of the Abyssal. Your next step here is to just add on a preserved jawbone, or you can save this step till the very end. This is kind of up to you, but that will give you the ability to then unveil with high likelihood of a good % damage of either % elemental, spell damage for skills that cost life, or another gain stat. Very high likelihood, and we'll showcase that as our last step of unveiling. But before we do that, we are going to go for, once again, a homogeneous greater. We do not need to specify prefix or suffix this time because there are only prefixes available, and greater exalt. If you go back through and look at the tags at this point of the craft, you will notice that we have now affixes for caster crit, caster lightning, elemental damage. So pretty much the same tags we had before. We didn't add any new tags to the pool. And if this was all skill, we would only have caster tags, which would ensure we hit spell damage plus spell damage hybrid. With the +5 lightning in the pool, we can hit any of the gain damage mods that are here, as well as we can hit % lightning. So we can hit gain damage, spell damage, or lightning. When we click the homogeneous omen, we are essentially protecting ourselves from hitting mana. Mana is a pretty dead stat most of the time, unless you're playing an Archmage build, which those aren't super popular this league. So take that how you will. If you're playing a Archmage build, maybe you don't care about using homogenizing on this step because mana would be a good affix for you at this point. But most builds want just straight damage multipliers. So homogenizing is guaranteeing we aren't going to hit just flat mana. And we'll go through and slam all of these now. Lightning damage plus hybrid, that's a good outcome. That's actually a really good outcome considering it was T1 lightning damage. Double gain, that works too. Double gain's great for damage. And then we hit double gain. So we have 2 wands with double gain, 1 wand with percent lightning and percent spell. And now for the final step, we're going to use the Omen of Abyssal Echoes. This basically just gives us 2 chances at the unveil here. So we get to see 6 total affixes. From my experience, percent elemental, damage with skills that cost life, generic gain damage, those mods are very common as outcomes here, and a lot of times with just 1 echo you'll get a pretty decent damage stat. So let's see what we hit here. Invocated spells cost 77% damage. This would work really well for like a cast on crit build probably. I'm gonna roll again just in case because I think there may be some more resellable affixes. I don't think too many people know this is a good affix that can exist for cast on crit builds. And we got main percent spell damage, so I think I'm gonna just take that just because it has a lot of gain damage on here already, or a lot of percent damage on already, and that's like a 200% damage with cast speed. And I think this one was crit chance, and that was just a straightforward 2 homogeneous omens was the main expense. Obviously we did an abyssal echoes as well, and we had a couple of targeted stuff, but this is the way you take a +5 wand and you make something pretty consistently that has good damage for your build. Invocated spells and lightning damage, this is a lightning skill wand, so I think I will take the lightning damage. I think that's pretty good. I could reroll and go for like triple gain or something, or go for some other stat that's useful like elemental damage, but I think I'm just going to take the lightning because lightning's pretty dang good. For the video we'll gamble. Elemental damage is also pretty common. I'll gamble on elemental damage. We did not get elemental damage. We got a slightly lower tier of lightning. I'm going to take the lightning. All right, and the final one we will reveal here. Hybrid spell, which is okay, but you really don't want that. We're going to just roll again. Hopefully we get some main percent damage, and we did not. We got gain. We'll make it a triple gain wand, and we'll see how that sells. Now, in this situation, all of these wands, you can always do something like Omen of Light if you're not happy with the 3rd prefix you get. But this hopefully gives you a pretty straightforward way to take a wand from +5 with some bad stats on it, clear the bad stats, and then add in all damage affixes. Not a single one of these affixes does not give you damage for your build, and should be a good way to make some endgame wands. Of course, I did greater exalts for my examples here because I was going to try on this cheap side. But if you're min-maxing and you're going for a very high-end craft, you can go for perfect exalts and any one of these steps. The main step process is, though, recombinate to get the mods isolated, finish the suffixes first with homogeneous and dextral exalt and greater exalt, so that way you force on the double crit chance plus cast speed, or crit damage plus cast speed, that sort of thing. And then you will clear your prefix with a essence, with the crystallization essence of abyss to remove off that bad spell damage. Then you slam on the preserved jawbone to get the abyssal or the desecrated affix on there, and then greater exalt homogeneous again to guarantee you get damage stats and not mana. That's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video on how to make yourselves some good wands for your own build. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, maybe you learned something, I don't know. As always, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care and peace out. Have a good one.